In today's episode, I am joined by Kimberley Dolman, a former standby student who completed 7 of our 10-week method acting modules. And I am so excited for you to hear this conversation because I think you're going to find it really, really inspiring. Since Kimberley finished a training with us, she has been keeping incredibly busy. She's continued to audition, she's signed with a new agent, she's taken on modelling work, and she's been producing her own projects in between all of this as well. And she started off with no experience. In this episode, Kimberley is here to talk about the War Project module, and she is here to talk about her experience of this specific 10-week method acting module. She is very, very honest, very, very candid. She shares the highs and the lows of her journey on the War Project module and how this training has shaped her as an actress. I cannot wait for you to dive into it.
You are listening to Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, unknown actors with me, Louise, the artistic director of Standby Method Acting Studio. And for the last 13 years, I've been taking unknown actors with blank CVs all the way to Netflix dramas, Amazon Prime films, TV soaps, and stage plays around the world. And every week I'll be talking with you and sharing how you can become a paid working unstoppable actor, because you 1000% can. An acting career is doable. Are you ready to dive into the episode? Kimberley, we are just going to dive straight into this, and I think what our listeners would really love to hear, because we've got so many different people on who listen to the podcast at different places in their journey with acting. So some are brand new, some are early career actors, were regularly auditioning, some have returned from a break to the industry, some are trying to get that elusive TV breakthrough role. But I think one thing that we love hearing the most, no matter where we are in this journey, is what got us started with acting. So can you take us right back to the very beginning? How did acting hook Kimberley in?
Well, I would say acting has always been something that I've been interested in. And that is because when I was little, I was always performing to my family, making little shows and plays, being different characters. And I think I really enjoyed the dressing up aspect and using my imagination. And that is really, I think, where it all started. And then I would watch films and shows, and I would think I would like to be playing that character, be in that role, be in that show. And I think over time, it just grew, this desire to constantly play and be different people.
I love that so much because I can relate to that. So when I was younger, I used to do little dance shows for my grandparents when they'd babysit for me and my sisters, or I'd try and get my sisters to be in a little girl band with me, or I'd do impressions of characters that I was seeing on soaps. But I also had that big imagination like yourself.
Yeah.
And I remember one film that I used to watch a lot was Bugsy Malone, and I used to pretend I was Tallulah on the sofa and just sing all her songs and act out her scenes. So I really relate to what you're saying, and I think that's the starting point for so many people. It's that imaginative play as a child. So that's all fun when we're children and we're loving it. And of course, our parents are usually quite supportive of us and they want to see more of our little shows that we create. So what was the defining moment for you then, would you say, when you realised this isn't just a hobby, this is something you need to do professionally?
I think what happened is I left school and I was told, quote unquote, to maybe get a real job first. I know. So I think that was quite sad at the time. So I went to go and do that. And then there was always something I felt was missing. I felt like there was a part of myself that I wasn't expressing properly. And to be honest, it wasn't until COVID, when that happened and we were in lockdown, that I think I really sat down and reflected am I actually happy with this life? And as maybe dark as that sounds, I did have to do that reflection and thought, actually, let's just have a look at where you are now. Are you happy with this? And the answer was no. And the reason why is I want to create and I want to go into acting. And I knew that if I didn't start then, I would have regrets. And I'm so glad that after that, I decided to go full force into it.
I love that, because I think it takes real bravery and real courage to reflect on your life and go, actually, I'm not happy and I can't get to the end of my life having continued living the same days or weeks or months or years on repeat.
And so mundane.
Absolutely, yeah. And it takes a lot of bravery knowing that acting is, well, what we all know is we're not guaranteed a regular income from it.
Yes.
And so I love that and I don't think that's dark at all. I think that's necessary for people in life to reflect. So what were the first real steps that you took then? So you'd had this moment of reflection and you decided you couldn't keep living your life the way you were because you would have regrets. So what were the first real steps you took to properly pursue acting then?
So what I decided to do is, because I really didn't know where to start at all, and it was honestly just Google, going on Google and researching where I can train, near me as well. I wanted to be quite local, what kind of acting techniques there were. And to be honest, there was a lot that came through. There are so many classes. And I think for someone starting out, it is a bit of a minefield because you don't know even some of the terminology. I'm thinking, what does this mean?
And I can imagine it's really overwhelming.
Yeah, so overwhelming. And everyone's saying this and that. And so that's basically what I started to do. And then actually what happened is I stumbled upon your Unstoppable actors group. So Facebook group. So I stayed in that group watching some of your videos. And then I decided to be really brave and do the 5-day method acting challenge, which I was so nervous about. And I remember doing the live Facebook videos for that. And I was so nervous to hit live on Facebook and everyone in the group listened to me perform a monologue. But I think after that, then I decided, with how welcoming everyone was in the group, that I knew that I did want to train with you at some point. So it was saving up for a class, basically.
Oh my gosh, like I love that, because, well, I think there's a few things there really. Sometimes, and please be honest and tell me if this happened to you or it didn't. I think sometimes when we go into challenges like that, we can automatically put other people on a pedestal and go, oh, well, everyone else is further ahead than me. They've got more experience, more confidence. And that can really feed into these fears that we have around going live, as well as the fact that it's a brand new thing that you're doing. But also as well, again, like, you were so brave doing that, because that five-day method acting challenge really, even though it is a very welcoming place, and yeah, we just dive straight into method acting. And for someone who's never done method acting before and you've heard about all these different techniques, I can imagine that was a little bit overwhelming as well. Does that sound like that was quite like what you experienced?
Yeah, honestly, because I think within the group there was a mixture. I think there were some people that had been pursuing acting or been in some things, and then there were some who hadn't, and I was in that category. But I think it was very hard not to be self-conscious and compare when other people who probably had more experience were going live. But that's the whole point of the challenge. I knew I had to do it at some point. But it was very, very nerve-wracking, and I won't sugarcoat it. I was very nervous beforehand. But I will tell you, during it, I didn't really think about it. And afterwards, I was so proud that I had done it. And then the feedback came and everyone was so supportive. So a lot of the time, I do think a lot of the thoughts are negative, are in your head and not what other people are actually thinking.
Absolutely. It's like anything in life. We give so much energy to what we think other people think about us, and actually everybody's just doing the same thing, thinking everyone else is thinking things about us when really they're not. They're not at all. And and that's, it's not to make it to shame anyone, because we all do it, but
Yes.
we really could learn from going, actually, I just need to feel the fear, do it anyway, just be brave, and whatever happens, happens. I'm either going to
Yes.
learn something from it, or there's going to be a blessing in it somewhere, or maybe both.
Yes.
So I love that you did that, because that is really brave, just to put yourself out there. So did you feel like you changed as a person when you came to the end of that, like both personally and acting wise as well?
Definitely, because I think I was actually learning a lot from watching other people in their lives of the monologue and seeing their interpretation, because we were all given the same monologue. And it was really interesting to see that. It was really interesting because also we had a mini journal that we completed in that. And,
Mm-hmm.
there were questions that the journal was asking that I hadn't even thought about asking. And so that's from an acting technical side. And I think on a personal level, I was just really happy in myself and elated that I actually had done it. And I think that was actually that felt like a leap for me, to be honest, not a step, a leap. And I think that's what I needed, just to push myself. And to some, it may not sound like a big deal, but to me, it was. And I think that gave me the confidence to keep going.
Oh, I just love that so much, because that leap is what's then allowed you to feel more confident in yourself to keep going forwards with this. And I think this circles back to what you were saying, when you were reflecting, and you felt like if you didn't pursue this, you'd regret things. Like, did you have any regrets at the end of doing that challenge, or did you feel like, right, okay, this has shown me this is what I'm actually meant to be doing?
It showed me what I was meant to be doing. I had no regrets. I was thinking, why was I worrying? And it was a promise that I kept to myself. And I think that's important too.
Absolutely. And I think, like, we can let our worries really take over us and
Yes.
create this entire story, and then that creates feelings, and then before we know it, we're like, right, we're stuck and we're not moving forwards. And there's a lot of people out there who do worry too much about, have I got enough experience? Is everyone else more experienced than me? But you've just shown, even through that 5-day challenge, that it doesn't matter, because
No.
people are going to support you no matter what. um so you did that, and I just want to go back to when you were researching all of the classes then, and the techniques, and you said you found it a little bit overwhelming, and there was so much, and some of the jargon you didn't quite understand. And there are lots of classes out there. Like, there's a class on every corner in the UK and all around the world as well. So when you came across Standby, what made you think, actually, this is different, and this is the one that I need to pursue, before you even joined the 5-day method acting challenge?
So I think what I'd found with the other classes, for one, is I read on your website that the classes were small. In
Mm-hmm.
the other classes, there could be like 30 in a class. So it didn't seem very personable. But and I also think for someone starting out, that's a bit intimidating as well,
Yeah.
because you're being asked to perform in front of a large group. But I thought what I read about your classes was they were much more, I would say, intimate. So the detailed feedback. And to be honest, watching your lives in the Facebook group and
Mm-hmm.
listening to your guidance, and also reading the messages and how you responded to people, that made me feel comfortable to want to train with you, because I could see who you were.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas other classes, you don't always see the teacher or know who they are, and they could always change, and you could never really build like a professional rapport with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important, actually, isn't it? I think that takes away some of the fear when you know who's going to be teaching you, and you've got a bit of a flavour of who they are, because that can be scary. I've had some really bad experiences with directors at drama schools, and drama schools, sorry, not drama schools, and in classes as well, after I finished my drama school training. And I think that definitely, that can make or break some actors or aspiring actors, because, like you said, you need that professional rapport, but you need to feel safe with whoever is coaching you, because acting
Yeah,
is, it's a
vulnerable.
real, yeah, it's a vulnerable art form.
It is. It is. And I think that was what I was looking for, because I was nervous and I didn't have a lot of confidence. Even though I had done the challenge, I wanted to go into a safe space, and I thought that standby offered that, and that is why I decided to train with standby. Whereas I think the other places didn't always offer that, I don't think.
Yeah, it's quite hard to gather whether it's going to be safe or not, isn't it? So then you plucked up the courage and you applied and you auditioned for the 10-week method acting modules, and we were just chatting before we hit record, and you did 7 of the modules with us. So can you talk us through what was it like when you were applying for the 10-week method acting module and then you were invited into audition? Like, what was your thought process? What was going on for you?
So of course I did the application, and I explained all about myself, and I knew that I had to be detailed with the application because I knew it was important, and I knew that you would only take a certain amount of people. So I wanted to make sure that I was honest as well, and wasn't saying that I had all this experience, but I was trying to be as truthful as possible. So I remember submitting the application and constantly waiting to hear back. And then I heard back, and I was really surprised and happy at the same time. To hear, yeah, because it was another achievement, another step forward. And when I got told that I had been chosen to audition, I was happy and then very, very scared because it felt very important, and again I wasn't that confident. So when I was sent the audition pieces, I was nervous, but I remembered the mini journal that you had given me for the 5-day method acting challenge, so I actually used that to help me with my audition.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
To help me, because I thought I have this. So I used that. I had never done an audition before, and it was also online, so I had never done that either. So it was also a technical aspect to learn, as well as meeting you for the first time and doing the audition. But I just tried to prepare as much as possible. And afterwards, I was very happy that I had done it. But leading up to it, I was nervous.
And I think that's totally normal. Well, it is totally normal. Everybody's nervous because you're putting yourself completely out of your comfort zone, and you're in a situation where, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, we're being judged.
Yes, yeah.
And it's something new. And whenever we do something new, there's always that mixture of fear and excitement. And I think this really speaks to who you are as a person, which is, despite fears that you have, you're resilient and you go ahead and you do the thing anyway. You put yourself outside of your comfort zone all the time. And I just keep thinking back to the conversation that you said you had with yourself about, am I going to regret the rest of my life if I don't pursue this? And I think that's such a pivotal moment in your life.
Yes, it really was.
Yeah, I think if you'd have not had that little chat with yourself, then you might probably still be living that life that you were leading before and feeling quite unhappy. And I think what's important for our listeners to hear is, we all feel scared. We all get really nervous when we're getting outside of our comfort zone. We all worry about what we look like, what others think about us. But if we don't do it, we will never, ever know what's on the other side of that fear. Is there anything else you want to add to that before I ask you some more questions?
No, I think, yes, to your listeners, I think it's really easy to say, I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll do that next week. And before you know it, months have gone by and you're still in the same position. And it is really hard. And I still have to do it, talk to myself and say, you're going to regret this if you don't do it. And I think regret is worse, I think, in the long run, than actually putting yourself out there for a brief time, maybe. And if it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well, but you did it, and you can tell people and yourself that you tried. And I think that's better.
Absolutely. I agree with that so much. And I myself struggle with fears as well. Like, just because I can speak articulately about people worrying and, moving past their fears and putting themselves into challenging situations doesn't mean I'm perfect at it, because I'm absolutely not. I think it's a lifelong lesson for all of us. And if we're going to pursue acting, that is something we've got to get maybe not comfortable with, but we've got to make friends with, because we're always going to be in uncomfortable positions. It might be that your next audition is a television audition and it could make or break your career. It could be that the next character that you're going to play is completely out of your comfort zone and you've no idea who this person is and you struggle to relate to them. Or it might be that you get an audition for a casting director and I don't know, they've got a reputation for being really strict and authoritative, and it's like whatever we're doing in this industry, we're always going to be out of our comfort zone. So the best thing to do is just keep putting yourself out of it to learn and to grow. So you went on to do 7 modules with us, which was very exciting. And one of those modules was the war project, which we're going to talk about specifically. But before we get onto that, what do you feel that the training at Standby gave you that you weren't getting elsewhere?
So there was, and there is, a lot of things I found with Standby that was a lot different. For one, and I think I've spoken about this, is the small classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like every class I was getting a one-on-one with an acting coach, because we got to talk about and see each other perform. And a lot of the time we would get feedback from yourself that we could then implement a second time in the performance. And the feedback I would say that you provide is very supportive, I would say, in terms of you understand what maybe we don't always see in a performance, and you have a real supportive and articulate way that you tell us, oh, maybe this is your blind spot in that performance, or are you holding tension here? I think you are. And then we can then reflect on that and say, oh, yes, I am actually, or oh, right, I didn't think about that. And then we can go again. And it's a really nice and supportive space. We did relaxation in the chair, which I know you talk about in your lives, on your stories, and also the podcasts. So we start class every day like that, which I think is really important. So a lot of the classes I felt very grounded. The sense memory, effective memory, so many things and exercises that you have equipped me with, I think are personally very unique. And on a one-to-one level as well, I think that really propelled my confidence and skills, to be honest.
Oh, that's so lovely to hear. And I'm like really happy that you felt so grounded in the classes, because I remember when I went to drama school and I was 18 at the time, and then even after that, and I continued training until I found method acting, I'd always go into every class again with that mindset, because it was just, I don't know, being conditioned to think this way, that, oh, I need to try and be good, but everybody else is probably better than me. And there was a lot of nerves and, oh, what if I mess up and get this all wrong? And I think one of the things I try to do at Standby, and maybe you can share your honest experience of this, is I try to remove all of that. I mean, I can't control you guys. If you come in feeling nervous, you come in feeling nervous, but I try to create a space where it's like, actually, let's not put energy on that. Let's put energy into getting ourselves into that headspace where we can be creative and we feel safe and we can explore. And if we make mistakes, it's all right. Nobody's going to laugh at us or judge us. I don't know if you can share your honest experience around that.
Yeah, I fully felt like you provided that. I think when I first started the classes, I struggled with relaxation in the chair. And to be honest, even during the modules, there was still some challenges there, because a lot of it was years of self-consciousness or worries, a lot of them probably mental, that were then manifested in my body, that then affected my performance.
Mm-hmm.
But to start the classes with relaxation, and to know that you're in a safe environment, and to receive supportive feedback that's also encouraging but true as well, but in a professional and technical way, was really, really helpful. And everyone in the class has the same mindset. We all know what's expected, and you lead by example. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, no, actually, you know what's just come to mind is I feel like if you're happy to share this, and if you're not, that's absolutely fine. You had an experience where you were rehearsing a play, didn't you? This is outside of the classes. And
Yes.
There was a director who, well, this is my version of what you shared, and you can share what your reality was if you're happy to. They were giving feedback which wasn't very useful, very constructive, and it wasn't creating a good atmosphere among the cast, was it, and in the production?
Yes, that's right. And I think in terms of that, I hadn't really experienced much like that. And I think if I hadn't have gone to your classes beforehand, I wouldn't have had the mindset resilience to not take the feedback personally. I think productions can be very stressful, but that doesn't excuse behavior. And I think that really did show me and highlight how supportive your classes are, but also the skill set and mindset that you equip me with for the industry, whether you're going into rooms where people may not be supportive and they may say things in a way that you could take very personally. But what we learn in your classes is to be resilient against that and build your confidence so that you don't take it to heart.
Yeah, and I was so proud of you with how you managed and handled all of that as well.
Yes.
Because it's a big thing. It's a really big thing to have someone give you feedback and it's not constructive or it's not professional. And of course, everyone's doing the best with what they know, but it can damage us. So let's move on to the Wharf Project then. Can you paint a picture of what the Wharf Project actually is for someone who's never heard of it? So what are the things that you're doing each week?
Okay, so the Wharf Project, first of all, was probably one of the most, one of the modules where I felt like I grew a lot, actually. It was one of the most, I would personally say, personally challenging modules. And I say this because it was a lot of improvisation, a lot of research, and you had to maintain the character for a long period of time, which is quite challenging, actually. So the War Project, so you're playing real people from history. So World War II, I played Joan Clarke. I was assigned that person. And you are essentially becoming that person and playing that character in an improvised setting and learning how to decipher codes. So the German Enigma code. So during the classes, we would, outside of the classes, we would research who were playing, their life story, where they grew up, their family, their education. And during the classes, we would then input that research into actually some of the acting exercises. So tell me who you are exercise. We would sit in a chair and talk about our life as the character. So we did a lot of exercises like that, but there was no script and it was all improvised.
Yeah, so in the first 5 weeks, you're building the character and you're researching alongside that, aren't you? And you're figuring out who these people are, how do they walk and talk, all of that, and then what's their internal world, what kind of life have they been brought up in, and then for the final 5 weeks, you're put in a situation where you're essentially back in Bletchley Park and you are breaking the codes or trying your best to break them, and you were given actual codes, weren't you?
Yes, we were given actual codes to learn. We had to learn how to decipher codes to then be able to perform in an improvised setting, deciphering those codes. So we had to make sure we did a lot of research. And I think the challenge that I thought, and I say a challenge just because it was a lot of personal development that I had during that project. In terms of maintaining a character, I never had to do something like that in that setting, but also the amount of research that you had to do. And it really opened my eyes to other actors who play real people, actually how much work goes into that, the mannerisms, the accent, the voice, their clothes, where they lived, to be able to maintain the character for such a long amount of time.
Yeah, it's like when I told you about it before, it always sounds so much fun, doesn't it? And then we get into the nitty-gritty of the work and it's like, oh, actually there is a lot of work to do here. So can you, because earlier you were saying this is one of the modules where you had the most amount of growth. Can you expand on that for us?
Yeah, so first of all, I would say building a character grew massively. And that was because we were using the actor's journal But the research was so intensive because you needed it. And it really built my work ethic, I think, during the module, because you couldn't have sustained the character for a long period of time without actually working hard and researching them. And as you're researching them, you're growing to like them and you want to do them justice because they are a real person. So I think the work ethic for me grew massively with this module. I think improvising as a character shifted the mentality from me and instead to the person that I am being in the scene to do them justice, because it's not about me, it's about them in the scene. So I'm doing Joan Clarke the justice that she deserves in the performance. I think the challenge was actually being in the bunker and how interactive you made that with the lights going down at certain points, and then you had sound of bombs going off to make it really immersive. But because it wasn't planned, you still had to react as the character and still sustain the scene and still carry on. And I thought that was challenging because you've not rehearsed it, it's not pre-planned. But I actually found that it was one of the most enjoyable modules when I look back and at the end and as I was going through it, because it really built me up to be able to improvise and be able to perform in uncertain circumstances with different things happening.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Each week you didn't know what was going to happen, did you?
No.
I find that spontaneity is really fun, and we love it as actors. But like you said, you've got to know this person inside out. Otherwise, you don't know how they would respond in each moment. So you were living as the same character then from history for 10 weeks, no script, like you said. You're just simply existing within the circumstances that I created for you. So in those first few weeks, you were doing exercises like yes and going through their life story, and we were doing improvs where you would connect to other characters in their life or other people in their life. And again, that's all really fun, but you don't have an end result with it, do you? Other than, well, I've got to create this person who I know lived and I have to do them justice.
Yes.
And then the next 5 weeks, you're actually in Bletchley Park and you're doing all these codes, and then there is the sirens that go off and there's all sorts that happens. What would you say was the hardest moment for you in the whole of the 10 weeks, and what did it teach you? And I mean, you might have already touched upon this, but yeah, I'd just love to hone in on that.
I think it was, I think the first few classes when we were building the character, that, you know, in itself is a lot to learn, but it's actually improvising when you've got the sirens going off and actually deciphering the codes, because you're sustaining the character and concentrating. It's object of attention. It's shifting a lot, but you're still maintaining the character. And I think it's acting alongside the other actors in the class, and they're playing their character as well, so it's adapting to their responses, and you cannot pre-plan what they're going to say or do or react, and you just have to go with it. And I felt that with the assessment that we had at the very end, you just had to do the character justice, and I think that in itself is really important, but it's the maintaining the character during everything that's happening and communicating with the other actors who are playing their version of a character as well, and making sure that you're doing that relationship justice as well to who that character is to the person you're playing.
Yeah, there's a lot of big learning paths in this module, isn't there?
Yeah. There's not just one, there's multiple, so many.
Yeah. And of course, we always start the classes, even in the War Project, with those 3 foundational exercises: your relaxation, your concentration, your sense memory. So we're always doing a lot, aren't we? And I can imagine maybe at the end of each class, we might have felt quite tired.
Yes. Definitely tired at the end of the classes, because it's a lot of physical and mental concentration. But it builds. As the module progresses every week, it's getting better and better, because you're like, your mental stamina and physical stamina is getting better and better as the week progresses.
And I think that's really important in the industry, because we are put under a lot of pressure when we have long working days, both in theatre and film. So we use the actor's journal, and that is absolutely central to building this character from the inside out. Can you give us a specific example of something that you wrote or discovered in the actor's journal that genuinely changed your performance of Joan Clarke?
I think there's a lot of things, actually. I think the actor's journal is a really interesting journal because it your answers are always different, but the feelings towards the character always changes depending on who you're playing, depending on what you're writing in the journal, because there are questions that you have in the journal that you have to really think about. And I think with the character that I played, it was actually a lot to do with the relationships to other people, like Alan, for example, and learning about her background and her relationship to him. I think that was really enlightening because during the improvisation, it actually really had an energy about it, I would say. So during relaxation, then afterwards, it opened up my mindset. And so when I was acting with the other actor who was playing Alan, all that research that I had done and the relationship and who he is to me and our history really came out in the improv. And I think that was one of the things that I think really stuck with me now still. I still think about this relationship between those two characters.
And for those that don't know, Alan is Alan Turing, and of course there have been there's been films done about Bletchley Park. So I was just going to ask you if there'd been a single breakthrough moment or a rehearsal or a week in the War Project where you felt something click that you'd never felt before as an actor. And I think from what you've just said about the relationship and all that historical research you'd done with that, like, was it around that or was it something completely different where you had this big breakthrough where you've never experienced this before in your acting?
I think that was one of the biggest breakthroughs, I think. But I actually think as well, maintaining this character so much in the scenes that I forgot that I was even performing with the mannerism because it had been so ingrained into me of how she walked and how she talked. And I think it shocked me a little bit because there were times when you know, you're not even thinking about, oh, would she have done this? You just know. And I think that really affected me, I think.
I love that so much. And to know that you'd disappeared into this role, but it wasn't disappearing in the sense where you're losing control. It's all backed up by all this research that you've done and the effort and time and hours you've spent on this character. Just to know that you can disappear into them and instinctively start responding as your version of them is so exciting. And that is a major breakthrough because that's when you know you're present and you're not thinking and all those worries have gone, which us actors have loads of.
Yeah, they're gone.
Yeah. So after this module in particular, then the War Project one, how did you show up differently, either in auditions or productions? Like, what changed in you as an actor?
So I think a lot of it is the research, and if there isn't any research because the character isn't based on a real person, is making the backstory. And it's really thinking about the relationship of who you're talking to in the scene, because I think that naturally just builds something inside of your core and makes you naturally, instinctively say lines a certain way without rehearsing them. So that's one thing. And the other thing was the ability to improvise for long periods of time. There have been some auditions where they've asked me to just improvise a scene as his character. One of them was actually a comedy scene, so quite different to the War Project, but a comedy scene. We want you to play this kind of character, improvise a scene. And that, I think, then led me to have the confidence to improvise for a long period, but also to create a unique character because I was confident that I could do it.
I love that. And because I don't think we often associate auditions with improv.
No.
And it's
No.
like I was saying earlier, we're going to be put outside of our comfort zone so many times, and we can have things thrown upon us. And if we're
Yes.
not prepared for them,
No.
yeah, that's where we're going to sink. And those stories that we tell ourselves, those negative ones, will get louder and louder. So that's
Yeah.
really exciting. So then, if you look back across all of your training at Standby, how has it shaped the actor that you are today? Kimberley, that I'm talking to right
Oh,
now.
so many things. It makes me quite emotional actually, because I think I'm a completely different person to who I was when I started training. I'm more self-aware about who I am, what I want to be as a creative. I know my body more and my mindset, because we covered that in relaxation, the work ethic, because every module we're doing, there are actors journal, and we have to show up, and we're showing up for ourselves as well. So I have a lot of accountability towards myself to make sure that I show up, knowing when I'm in uncomfortable situations, how to navigate that by knowing my self-worth as an actor, because I know that I have worked hard and trained with someone that's been supportive, that has the knowledge, so that now when I have auditions come through or I'm in projects, I have the skill sets and the tools to know, right, okay, this is how I can manage my mindset. And this is what I can do physically to get grounded. And in terms of the research, I know what I'm doing with the journal. So I think I've got so many tools to equip myself that I can prepare and adapt to different situations.
I love that, because that is what it's about. I think I recorded a podcast either last week or the week before about what is the number one skill set that great actors have. And we dived into a few different things, but adaptability was one of those things.
Yes, yes.
Because the industry calls for it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes, it does. It wants people to adapt. And I think the confidence that I've got from training to then go and put myself forward for roles and auditions. There are some auditions that ask you to do crazy things, especially commercials.
Oh God, yeah.
But it's being able to adapt to that and say, okay, I will give you what I can now with the best that I can, do today. But even short films, sometimes they will say, and I've done a short film recently, oh, we're going to just give you these extra lines, and you've just got to be okay. I will try and connect to them as much as I can. But also, I think because the classes with you are so in depth, other classes, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I am, some other classes seem easier maybe because you're not getting, they seem easier, but you're not learning anything. You're just going, you're watching other people, and you go away. With your classes, you actually put yourself out there in the classes as an actor, but you take so much away afterwards that you have so many rewards from them.
Yeah, I think without going down the route of belittling other classes, which is not my job to do that, and I can't do it anyway because I've not experienced other classes that my students go to. But I do think one of the things that I hear a lot from my students is always how structured our classes are. And I believe that's really important because as creatives, and I mean this in a really kind way, but we can be very scatty and a little bit unorganized, and we need the structure. And the structure actually gives us the discipline. But that's really, yeah, I can understand why you would say some of the other classes are easy, and easy feels good for our ego. It's like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I'm getting through this. It's fine, no problems.
And I think that's what I mean when I say easy. Yes, I think I'm thinking, oh, this is great. I'm flying through this class. But actually, I've not grown as much actually, really. And I want growth. And I think people will get that and discipline from your classes.
Well, that leads me nicely into my final question then, which is, because we get a lot of people listening to the podcast and they'll listen to it for long periods of time, like maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, before they will ever come and do a class. And I understand, because it can be a little bit scary. You said yourself, you were nervous auditioning for us and nervous doing the 5-day method acting challenge where you first started. But for someone who's been listening to this podcast for a while, or maybe not even for a while, just for a little bit, and they're tempted, they're like, oh, I really want to do this, but they are sitting on the fence, what would you genuinely say to them, hand on heart?
I would say, and it's so easy to say, just do it. And I say this because there was a time when I was on the fence. Oh, I'd really like to do that. Oh, but I'm not good enough. You are good enough. You do have the talent. You just need to be nurtured in a safe space. And I honestly say, please just do the first step and submit an application. Step 1's done, maybe the hardest bit, and then it will slowly progress. And I think you will look back afterwards and ask yourself, why did I wait so long? And that's, I think, how I'm going to leave it for that answer. I could say so much more.
I think that's so true, isn't it? Just get that first step done. Don't even think about the full picture.
No, yeah, one little step. And I think that's the mindset that I do carry around all the time with things now. Just do the first step. Worry about the other steps later. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And before you know it, you've done so many steps, you're nowhere near where you once were before. You've progressed.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things when people are struggling with the relaxation, because you do it at home, don't you, as well, each day?
Oh, yeah.
And I always say, look, when you can't be bothered to do it, which is a normal feeling, just sit in the chair. That's it. Just sit in the chair. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Once you've sat in the chair, just put the timer on for 15 minutes. That's the second thing. That's all you needed to do. And those are really easy steps, aren't they?
They are. Yes, they are. And I think once you simplified the steps in your head, you do these things, and then you do the next thing and then the next thing. So that's what I would say.
Well, it has been so lovely to speak to you, Kimberley. Thank you so much. And I've absolutely loved reconnecting with you because it's been a while since we worked together. Where can people find you? Where can they follow your journey with your acting and modelling, which you've got into as well? Because I'd love to send people your way.
Oh, that would be great. So I do have a very open Instagram. So it's Kimberley.d_. So you can come and find me and you can see my spotlights, my show reels on there and some modelling pictures. And I would love to connect with people and I can help answer any questions they may have about any of the modules as well, Louise. So I can do that.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you. That's such a kind thing to offer. And I always think it's great to speak to people who've been on the training because, like I always would say to you guys in the classes, I'll tell you how great it is till the cows come home. But to speak to someone who's been there is really important. So what I'll do is I will link your Instagram in our description of this podcast, so people can go and find you. They can go and follow you. They can reach out to you if they want to. I would love to wrap up by asking you, because our podcast is called Unstoppable Actors, what is one thing that makes you feel undeniably unstoppable?
Oh, good question. Oh, so many. I think it's the resilience to keep going. And I learned that a lot from all the classes, the resilience with your ideas and mindset. And I think that's what makes me unstoppable.
I love that. And I would definitely say you are resilient 1000%. That has been so lovely. Thank you so much, Kimberley.
Thank you so much. So great to catch up.
I've absolutely loved hanging out with you, and I really hope you found this episode inspiring. If you have, please do rate the podcast and hit follow so you never miss an episode, and I can help more actors like you. And come and join one of the most supportive, uplifting acting communities on socials, the Unstoppable Actors Facebook group, where you'll get your weekly injection of inspiration, networking, and receive your free Method Actors handbook so you can become an unstoppable actor.